All right, folks, here we go. Moving on. Now that we've covered how to complete our frame and get our slide onto our frame nice and smooth without using all that messy lapping compound to get a nice tight fit so we can get a nice smooth feeling gun and wring out all the potential accuracy that we can. Because when your friends pick up your build, you know, you want them to feel that slide to frame fit and have it feel real nice. So the next thing we got to do is get this barrel into this slide. But before we can do that, we got to get this bushing fit to both slide and to barrel. So as it sits right now, our barrel bushing does not, or I'm sorry, our barrel does not fit into our barrel bushing, and our barrel bushing does not at all fit into our slide. Some people are going to go, aw shucks, darn it, what do I do now? But I rejoice because this means I'm going to be able to get the tightest fit possible. And this is really where the accuracy of your 1911 comes from, okay? Yes, I talk about tight slide to frame fit, and that does have some to do with accuracy. A super loose gun is not going to be accurate, but just because the gun is super tight does not mean it will be more accurate if the gun has a little bit of rock in it. The accuracy comes from the repeatability of the barrel locking into the slide. The way we control that is there are 4 points on this slide that need to be controlled. Starting from up front to the back, you have the muzzle. Okay, whether you're using a bushing barrel like most 1911s, we need to have a as tight of a fit to the barrel bushing as possible. That way, when the barrel is in battery position, returned and in battery, it is returning to the exact same location every time. Then we have the upper lugs. Okay, these are your upper lugs that mate into the recesses in your slide. That needs to be a proper fit. I'm not going to say a tight fit or, definitely not a loose fit, but you want a proper fit. And when we get into that, I'll explain what a proper upper lug fit is. Make sure we have proper engagement and that these aren't rubbing in the wrong places. You need a good barrel hood fit. It does not need to be ridiculously tight, but you do want it tight. You do not want the barrel rocking around. When it's in battery, if a good test is to take your 1911, take your handgun when it's in battery and push down on the barrel, on the hood here. And if you can feel any play, or if you can push it back and forth to feel any play, same thing up with the muzzle. If you can push the muzzle around and feel some play, you're not getting the best out of your gun. Okay, you're not getting the most out of your gun. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, muzzle, upper lugs, barrel hood, and then your lower lugs. Okay, when it's in battery, okay, the slide stop pin is under here, and you want that slide stop pin making full engagement across the feet down here of your lower lugs, supporting that barrel and returning it to the same position. Again, consistency in the placement in the slide. Okay, so as long as these two are married together, it really doesn't matter the position of the slide, because the sights are also married to the slide. So your sights are married to the slide, and if your barrel is married to the slide, then the actual location of the slide on the frame isn't as important. You still want a tight fitting gun. You don't want it super loose. Okay, that's never good, because there are a lot of tolerances here that we need to be working with, keeping them in sync. But it all starts with this, and so again, not to terribly bash on Fusion, but this was the barrel bushing I ordered from Fusion, thinking it would be cut to match their barrels. Well, you can see it rocking, and it's loose on there. So I'm not saying that if I put that in the gun that it wouldn't work. It would work. It would work just fine, I'm betting. But this is going to work a little bit better. So the first thing we need to talk about is measurements, and the first thing we do when we fit a barrel bushing is we fit the bushing into the slide. Okay, I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter which way you do it. I always just do bushing into slide and then barrel into bushing. So take the outer diameter measurement here with our trusty calipers. I'm getting 705. I don't know if you guys can see that, but 705. And then I'll take the ID measurement here, and 700. All right, so 705 and 700. So I got to take 2.5 thousandths off each side for a total of 5 thousandths removal, and we should have a nice press fit on there. Now, I can do this on the lathe because I have a lathe and I've made tooling to put this into the lathe, and that's actually how I'm going to do it, and we're going to see that in a bit. But since most people don't have a lathe, I'm going to talk about how you do this by hand. It's going to take a lot of careful filing and filing on a radius. So let me be right back here. See, I told you I'd be using this file a lot. All right. Now, when you file on a radius, okay, you want to have it secured. So probably, I mean, you can hold it by hand if you got a steady hand. But when you start filing on this thing, you know, having a safe edge file is good because you've got this lug here. This is what actually is locking into your slide, and you don't want to go filing on that when you don't want to. Now, instinctively, if you've never filed on a curved surface before, you may be tempted to file in this motion. Okay, that's not how you want to do it. You want to do it the reverse way. So you want to start here, and with a nice even pressure, even stroke. Okay, file like that. Okay, now I'm not actually going to file on this because I need to put it in my lathe, and I need this surface untouched so I can indicate it, so that I know it's running true before I cut it. But you're going to be filing in this motion, okay? This motion. Even pressure, even strokes. And rotate it and start it again. Okay? Rotate it, start it again until you get all the way around, and then you're going to measure. Okay? Don't forget, okay, you need to do the inside in this small surface right here. But this may be a different measurement. So actually that might be a good little test right there. Let's measure that. That is, aha, it is. Okay, so we had 705 before, now we have 703. Okay, so let's just double check that. Let's make sure I'm not making it read what I want it to read here. Yeah, 704 and a half, 705, and well, maybe I was just reading on a different part of the caliper there. Okay. So 704, maybe 1,000. Oh, there we go. See? We'll just use these. See what? I was preaching it earlier, having good measuring instruments, and here I go, not using them. Okay. So here we've got. Wow, those were off. Okay, 709, nope, there we go. Yeah, these are being, okay, 706. 705 and a half, 706 up top, or actually, well, on the back end of it, I guess. And make sure I'm getting it on the right spot here. Make sure this is nice and straight. Yeah, it is smaller down here. Yeah, 703 and a half. So a 2/2000ths difference, which 2/2000ths of an inch doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're filing metal and when you're working on a circular object, removing 2/2000ths worth of material is really only 1/1000ths, because 1/1000ths each side. So, I mean, you could remove 1/1000th of an inch with one good pressure stroke with a file. You could easily rip through 1/1000th of an inch. So you got to be careful. If you're doing this nice and slow and you realize you're getting close, 1/1000th, 1.5 thousandths, you might want to switch over to something like 220 or even 320 grit sandpaper. If you want to get adventurous in making your own tooling, if you don't have a lathe, but you have a drill press, you can make the same type of tool that I have, or contact me and I can make you a tool that you can put into your drill press to do this, or even in a hand drill, okay, or a corded drill. There are ways to do it where you can have it set up in spinning, where either you can hold a small file up against it lightly, or take strips of sandpaper against it to slowly remove that material down. Okay, so if you're interested in something like that, let me know, and I can make you a 1/2-inch shank tool similar to the tool that I'm going to use here, that you're going to see in my lathe, to remove the material from the outside. Now, when it comes to the inside, that's going to be a little bit different. I have a lathe. I'm going to use a boring bar to go inside. Once we get the outside trimmed down and fit into the slide, I'll talk about how to remove material from the inside. It's a lot more simple than you think. So, I'll see you over at the lathe, all right? Ta-da! Magic of movie editing. So we're over at the lathe now, and as you can see, we have our lathe tool holding our barrel bushing, and simply just a screw-in fixture. You guys saw it earlier. This is just a smaller version of it to hold the commander size barrel bushings. So this is already indicated into under 1/1000th of an inch. This is not perfectly round. I imagine it has to do something with the surface coating on there. And that's okay, because once we get to cutting it, it's not going to matter anyways. So remembering our measurements that we took earlier, there's two portions or two bands, if you will, that we're going to have to remove material from. Let me grab a little pointing device. So to my right, your left, on the back end, I guess, we're going to remove about 5/1000ths of material, and then on the other edge of the lug here, we're going to move about 3.5 to 4/1000ths worth of material, and that should get us sliding in there. We should be able to just clean it up with some sandpaper to get it to fit in nice. After that, we got to fit the lug by hand, and that will be a little bit of hand filing. Excuse me, still getting over this cold here. Bear with me. And then that'll be fit into the slide. Once we got that done, it'll be a simple matter of just boring out the inside of this thing to the proper inner diameter for fitting the barrel. So without further ado, let's get this lathe turned on here, and we'll get to cutting this thing. This is way too fast. We'll be doing that. All right. So, this is just a parting blade, standard high-speed steel parting blade. We're just going to touch off and set 0. Yeah, just see us touching. Alright. Just scraping off that oxide layer. And that's exactly what I want. Now we'll throw a little oil on there. Find where I put it. There we go. You can probably just start to see some shiny spot on there. That's me touching off. So then and I'm just going in a couple thousandths and then running it side to side. And about 4/1000ths. Oh yeah, we got total cleanup. So we got 100% cleanup now. We're starting to get into that radius. We are at just about 5/1000ths now. Brush these chips off there. see that nice shiny cut. Nice high-speed steel tools if you're new to machining. Well, that ain't gonna fit in there, is it? So high-speed steel tools, they will burn up faster on things like stainless steel, but man, high-speed steel just gives a really nice surface finish. We are at 700. So I'm going to do the same thing, repeat the same thing over here. Yeah, this is the tight fitting one. So we gotta just get this thing inside the flange and that locking lug. Should touching off right there. Let's see. Put that thing on pretty darn tight. There we go. Let's pull this off and check. Alright, so goes our slide. Obviously it's whoop. There we go. That is just pressing. That is, oh man, that is one. Yeah. Yep. That is a perfect fit. Unfortunately, we still need to do the other part. Take 3 cents off this guy. We'll put it in the other way here. Now, if you're doing this and it's just barely kind of going in and it's a little crunchy, don't worry about it. You're going to put this thing in and take it out and turn it. Enough times it's not going to matter. You're going to, all those little tiny little burrs and high spots, you know, you're going to wear them off. So it really doesn't matter. So, let's see if we can cut just a couple thousandths. Why you no cut? Alright. I think my blade was just pressing up against the wrong part there. Let's take a quick measurement. Yeah, that should be saying 699. Slide over here. So the front part measuring 699, back part measuring 700 on the nose. Now you can see how nice and uniform that cut is, and you'll notice that in the center these are relieved. It makes fitting them a lot easier because you only have to fit the front and the back. If you had to match that diameter all the way across, especially with this lug being in there. Man, that would be a pain in the butt. So let's just, man, this thing is just, I might actually have to bring some sandpaper. There we go. Get in there. There we go. All right, so now we are all right, so we're flush in there. Well, almost. What? Okay. So there's just a little strip. Just a little tiny strip my blade did not touch. It's keeping that thing. Now I'm not worried about it getting out around, because I cut this, I cut the boss that it's sitting on to fit perfectly to the diameter, the inner diameter of this thing. So every time I put it on, it's going back in the same exact spot. So I'm not even worried about that. So, oh, man, that's frustrating. There we go. So I don't know if you guys saw that, just that little sliver of metal getting cut. Now it's evened out. Let's see if that'll sit flush against the face of the slide now. Man, I need to stop filming these when I'm sick, huh? Man, you're tight. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I have no idea how that's showing up for you guys. That is sitting up flush, okay? It can move, right? But it's got some resistance, all right? So that's a good tight fit. It's a good sliding fit. So now, yeah, I can't, there we go. So now, let's head back over to the bench and we'll file that little bit in there to get it fit in there, and then we'll be back on the lathe to bore out the inside to match the barrel. Okay. All right, guys, we're off the lathe, as you saw. This is another look at that tool I was using. And again, this is just a little shop-made tool. If you got a little mini lathe, you could easily make something like this. This is just a little arbor with a boss that's machined down to fit the inner diameter of your barrel bushing. The boss has to be shorter in length than the barrel bushing, okay? Because the taper on this is cut with a taper for a reason. This is just threaded. This one is threaded half 13. Because when this screws in, that taper needs to be pressing against the open mouth to hold it in solid, but to also keep it centered up. And it makes indicating this thing a lot easier. So yeah, if you've got a little mini lathe and you want to make one of these, I guess contact me if you want help making it, or if you just want to buy one from me, that's fine too. I'll make you one. $25 for this guy, and I'll get it out the door to you. So okay, so we finished cutting this thing, and now you can see the nice clean cuts on either side of it. We've got it machined down. The back end is measuring 0.700 exactly. The front side is measuring 0.699. We have nice smooth edges. Like I was saying about those, high-speed steel, it leaves a really nice surface finish for low RPM, shallow cuts like this. Carbide cutting tools are great for just hogging out material and blowing through and making big chips. But for fine detail work, high-speed steel, I feel, is the way to go. So. All right, enough about that. Let's see how this thing fits in the slide. Let's get this thing out of here. So remember, our opening here measured 0.700. All right, so that is really nice. So that fits nice and perfectly flush up against the face of the slide. The flanges sit nice and flush up against the front side of the slide there. It does move with a very slight resistance. It is a nice sliding fit. Now the big resistance that we're going to get, that we're going to need the barrel bushing in order to turn this thing, is from. Yeah, you see me fighting this thing coming out, man. It's tight in there. The locking resistance that you get from these is from this lug. Okay, so if this is your first time fitting a barrel bushing, the recess that's cut out in your slide is where that lug resides. It's where it turns, I should say, because when you put it in with that lug in the opening, and then you rotate it into the locked position. When you disassemble, you turn it past to let your guts out, your spring and everything, and then you rotate it back to take it out with the barrel. So what we'll do is we'll mark this. This is where, having a Sharpie comes into play. If I can find mine. There we go. You could use black, you could use Dykem. Dykem is fine. I use blue Sharpie. So you can either mark the inside of your slide, or you could do what I'm about to do. And we're going to mark this guy up. So marking your fresh cut areas on this will also let you know how good your engagement is, because it'll all rub off where you're touching. So I'm not saying coat this thing in blue Sharpie, but if you wanted to, you could. But what this will do is this will show us where the Sharpie is rubbing off of, and it'll let us know where we need to remove what side we need to remove material off of, and approximately how much. So put this thing back in. Here we go. Come on. I know you're tight. Don't fight me, man. I'm just going to work this back and forth. Let's see, we're going to give me some sort of wear here. I have a feeling I know which side it is, but I'm just going to confirm here. So I have a feeling, just based on, well, doing this a lot, it's going to be the forward side of the lug. It usually is. So I'm just going to put some Sharpie inside the slide there just to confirm, because I should see some sort of wear pattern, some sort of wear mark in there. Come on. Come on, get in there. I know you're. See, here we go. So you make tight fitting parts, you make good fitting parts, and they just want to fight you the whole time. No respect, like like Rodney Dangerfield. No respect. Bad joke, guys. I'm sorry. 1911 humor, Come out. Okay. So I got one little shiny spot on here. I'm gonna darken it back up, and I'm gonna put this back in and do it again just to make sure that it is what I think it is. So now I just don't know. All right, we'll be right back. All right, back. All right, so got this thing figured out. What was happening was this thing wasn't showing me where it needed to be fit, and it was throwing me for a loop. But my suspicions were confirmed. It wasn't showing me anything because it was actually trying to slip into the groove. So it is just barely not fitting in. I ended up putting it back in, grabbed my bushing wrench, tried to turn it to try and get something to rub on it. I ended up just turning it into the groove, but with a lot of resistance, okay? It then got locked in there, and remember I was talking about having brass punches on around. This brass punch just hammered this thing out. So, dare I do this again, but we're going to fit in, and remember, an aluminum bushing wrench is going to pay off. Don't get a plastic one. So we can actually rotate in, and it's stiff. Okay, so that's a good fit. But I want it to rotate over to the other side. And you know, well, remember what I was just saying. It'll rotate over. It is really tight, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't want it this tight. See now, see, this is why I don't want it that tight. It'll get stuck over on that side. Come on. All right. Soft jaws on the bench. Pardon me for not being in frame here, but I am putting this frame in my bench vise, in my copper soft jaws, so that I get a firm grip on this thing. There we go. Okay. Sorry about stepping out of frame, folks. Just had to put that thing in the bench vise so I could get a better grip on the slide while I wrench this thing off. So what am I going to do about that? It's super mega tight. Well, one, heck yeah, man, I'm all about having a tight bushing. Like I was saying, that's where a lot of our accuracy comes from. But here we can see where it's wearing. So come over to our needle files, and like I said, these are kind of a must-have. So I've got a square needle file, and this one doesn't have any safe edges. So we're just going to be careful to press against the side that we want. So right now, I just want to press up against the inside. I'm not pressing down. I'm just pressing against the side. And if we think about which way this locks, it rotates this way. It gets put in like this. It gets put in like this and then rotated. And it needs to be able to rotate over here. So if we think about a wedge and how to keep this tight, we want there to kind of be like a taper. So more narrow on this end and fatter on this end. So I want to remove more material from over here. So that's why I'm just pushing against the side. Nice little strokes. And then we're going to put it back in, see how it feels. And I also see a little bit of silver on over here too. So this may be oversized on both sides. So well, I don't need to use a super skinny file, so I'm going to use this guy with the safe edge. And we'll take a few swipes over here as well. And since it was already starting to go in, I'm not going to try and go crazy. Okay. I can see I've removed just a little bit of material from both sides. I'm going to re-sharpie the areas that I removed material from. And now we're in the back and forth process. This is welcome to hand fitting parts. Okay, so mark them, put them back in, test fit them, see where they rub, and go back and do it again. So now when I'm back in the battery position, this is good. I think this is going to be a real good one right here. So over here, it's a little loose. I can turn it by hand, and that's fine. So now we get into it, the locking tab going into the recess, and I can't turn it by hand. It's too stiff for me to turn it by hand, but it's nice and smooth with the barrel bushing. That is in the locked position. And if I rotate it, yep, we're going to be good. and it's still a little stiff, okay, for me to use with the barrel bushing or with the bushing wrench, but it's not terribly hard, and I can bring it back with my hand. Okay, so that is exactly how I want it. Okay, I want it to be hard enough that I can't do it with my hand, and I can't do it with my finger. If it's loose to the point where I can do it with my finger, this isn't returning to the same spot. Okay, remember when we were talking about the barrel being married to the slide? Well, the bushing needs to be married to the slide as well. Meaning when it's in this position right here, you do not want to be able to turn this thing with your hand. Because if you can turn it with your hand, imagine what this thing cycling and being fired is doing. It's jittering around in there, and it's not returning to the same spot. So you want it to be tight. You want to have to use the bushing wrench in order to turn it. You just don't want it to be so ridiculously tight that you actually end up cracking this thing when you're firing. Not to rag on STI. STI makes some phenomenal 1911s and 2011 race guns, but for a while they were having a problem with their barrel bushings cracking because they were fitting them so tight that after 1,000, 1,500 rounds, the repeated stress of these guns firing was cracking these because there's too much stress on them during firing. Whether that was a bad heat treat, they just didn't temper them back properly, or they were just fit too tight, which can happen and crack them. But yeah, as you see right there, it's tight, and when I turned it, it popped. So it popped, and then now this thing's gonna fight me. I'm probably gonna clean this up with a little bit of sandpaper eventually, because there's no way to treat your master. All right, we're gonna have to do this again. Brass punch to the rescue. Come on. Where's the third hand when you need it? With the brass side, calm down. There we go. See how tight this thing is? Okay, so now we've got this fit into the slide. Now let's marry it to the barrel. So let's, again, back to taking basic measurements. Now I've already done this, so I already know what it is, but there's going to be a couple different ways that you can do this without using big expensive machines like I'm going to do. I kind of cheat, right? Okay, so we've got 579 and a half. So 0.5795. That's how wide this diameter is, and that is right on target. Now let's take the more precise way to do this, I guess, would be with a telescoping gauge, telescoping bore gauge. You can put it in there and then mic it. I don't have one of those. Oh, I left my mic calipers over here. Or an inside micrometer would be the machinist way to do it. But even though I have machine tools, I am not a machinist. Okay, so this is reading 578. 578.5. So we are potentially only 1/1000th of an inch off, which is great for somebody without big machine tools to put this in and to bore out perfectly. This would be very, very easy to get to fit. All you need to do is you could do this with your pinky and some sandpaper, some 320 grit sandpaper. Or you could take yourself a round file or a wooden dowel. Heck, if you got one of these like little acid brushes, you could put some sandpaper around, the handle of this, and just put it in there and just work this. Is it going to be the straightest, most precise way to do it? No. But you are going to do it, and you can do it to your heart's content as slow as you want to get a brilliant, perfect fit. The most precise way to do this without machine tools would be to buy a reamer, a chucking reamer, for the diameter of this. So if this is 0.5795, I would get a 0.580 reamer. That actually does come out to a 64th fraction. 0.5801, that is a 37/64, I believe. 37/64, that would be, yes. Someone's going to correct me if I'm wrong. So somebody will drop it down in the comments, but 0.5801 is a fraction drill. I just forget which one it is, but I know that because that's what I bore muzzle brakes out to for 5/8 24 thread. So there is a drill for that. So you could put a drill in there. You could put this maybe in your bench vise and just pop the drill in there. Put a 580 drill, just pop it. Or I would use a reamer. I would use a reamer and carefully insert it. You're only removing in this case potentially 1/1000th of an inch, which again, working on a circular surface, that's 0.5 of an inch per side, which I think is just fine to do with by hand, just with some. I mean, gosh, you could probably use 400 grit and get it. But we're going to do this in the lathe. And so I know how much I need to remove. I'm going to put this into the fixture that I've made for this, and I'll meet you back over at the lathe again, and I'll have this indicated in, and we'll be ready to pop a boring bar in here and get this bored out and get this slide perfectly, or not the slide, get this barrel perfectly mated in here. Okay, see you in a little bit. Alright folks, back on the lathe here. As you can see, we've got the barrel bushing mounted back up in the spider fixture here. And what you're looking at right here is a 0.010 indicator. So just to show how finicky these things can be, I'm going to spin this thing for you and watch that needle. So right now that is at the high point, and that's just over 3 2/10, and now we immediately come back to 0.002. So 0.0012 difference, and then it goes into the middle, and then it comes back up, and then it comes back down. Well, that comes back down to almost 3.5. So. And you can see it do this weird dance. Okay, so that's about the best I can get it. So the inside surface of it, and again, that's likely due to the surface finish of the metal. It's not perfect, and we're probably going to end up just cleaning it up and getting that barrel to fit. So we get on the other side of the lathe here, and we'll get this indicator out of the way. Having these little Brown and Sharp best test indicators are awesome. They certainly do the job, despite being mega finicky. Alright, here we go. So, I was talking about high-speed steel giving a really nice surface finish. I don't have a high-speed steel boring bar, so I'm going to be using carbide for this. This is a finishing insert, so very, very tight radius on the end of this this tool. This is an 1/8 thou radius tool, so definitely a finishing insert. It'll leave a very nice fine finish on the inside here. And all I'm going to do is really just kind of touch off and run it. So not any fancy counting or anything like that. There we go. Just coming inside, pulling it back until I touch. gonna run this in. Nice and slow. Okay. So now we clean. Well, we didn't even do a full cleanup. There's still a little bit in there. But this will be kind of a touch and go test fit process. So here's the barrel, and it still does not want to go. Although I can feel it. It is right there. We'll hit it again. We'll make it fit. And there we go, we're touching again. I went in just a squeak more after touching, so maybe half a thousandth or so. I mean, I'm not even taking a chip, I'm just kind of rubbing off material at this point. Taking a nice slow pass. Nice slow pass out. I'm going to leave that exactly where it was in case this doesn't fit. Yeah, this time. Blow this out real quick. This time we got a full cleanup. Oh man, look at that. Yeah, that is. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. All right, we are done here. That is how easy that was. Everybody, go out and buy yourself a big ass lathe to throw in your garage. I'll see you back over at the bench. All right, folks, back at the bench, we've got our bushing all fit up to our barrel. So just to put it on the right way and show you what we're dealing with. It's tight on here, okay? It is tight. It does not move freely, okay? So it sticks, all right? And that is precisely what I want. Now this, over the course of us building this, these parts are going to rub together. So those little high spots that are causing friction and everything, they're going to wear against each other. And they're going to wear down and they're going to polish against each other and become smooth. So in a couple days of us messing with this thing, it's probably not going to do this anymore, and it's going to free up a bit. And that's okay. That's what I want. I want the parts to be nice and smooth against each other. I don't want a lot of friction, but they're going to maintain that really tight tolerance against each other. So we're going to keep that really nice fit. So to kind of put everything together here for everything that we have done, we have fit our bushing into our slide, fit our barrel into our bushing. So, and I showed you guys earlier in the last episode that these two already go together. Well, the barrel hood, the hood anyway. So let's go ahead and let's see this all put together for the first time. So we gotta turn that in. Use our barrel bushing, bushing wrench. Get our that looks about lined up, yeah. We're gonna use our barrel alignment block. This goes on the back. Keep our barrel straight. All right, and there we go. So you see, the barrel alignment block keeps the lower lugs in proper alignment with the slide. And this ensures that when your barrel goes into lockup while you're fitting it, and remember, we didn't even have to fit this barrel, but I've got another barrel coming, don't worry, KKM Precision, 5-inch 40 caliber bullet barrel. It's going to go into a race gun. I'm going to show you the full fitting on that one. So you can see me pushing down and going into lockup, okay? So this barrel is fully fit into the slide, okay? We still got to mess with the lower lugs here. We still got to get those taken care of. But as far as the barrel, the bushing, and the slide is concerned, ladies and gentlemen, this is done, okay? The only other thing that we might have to do is adjust the upper lugs a bit. I do not have a 9mm casing around here. Actually, yes I do. Well, let's go ahead and check that. So what you want to do now, if you can get one, get a deprimed 9mm casing or whatever cartridge you're shooting. Okay, this one's a 9mm, so I have a 9mm. Let's pull our barrel out here. And what we're about to check, this thing's tight. Don't build them so tight, Sam. Man, this one's gonna fight me. Yeah, you're good. There we go. Bushing is tight. We may have to do a little bit more fitting up here if this wants to spring, but we're about to find out right now. Okay, with this test. So what we're going to do is take a resized, okay, meaning it's been ran through a resizing die. All right. We're going to take this casing. We're going to put it in the chamber. Okay. So and this will do two things. Okay, it'll tell you if your chamber is done to proper headspace. So that resized casing should fit, flush or just below flush with the end of your barrel head. And we're going to put the barrel into lockup. Okay. So we are in lockup, and what we're going to do is we're going to look through the back. Okay. Let me see if I can show you here. Carefully. Okay. Well. Okay, you guys can kind of see it. If you're looking through the back here, you can see that little pinhole of light. You're looking through the flash hole of the piece of brass. So what this tells me is that when this barrel is locked up, the barrel is perfectly aligned and straight with the firing pinhole. So that tells me that I do not need to adjust the upper lugs. It tells me this is perfectly fine the way it is. Now, this is not the last time I'm going to check this. This is just right now. I'm going to check this again when we have the firing pin stop in the frame, and we have our lower lugs fit and our barrel length selected and the barrel fit to the feed ramp and everything else. And basically, when we got the gun together, we're going to check it again just to make sure that the barrel length, that the length of the link is not either pulling this down too far, pulling it down out of alignment with the firing pin hole, or pushing it up further out of alignment. That we don't want that. So right now it's sitting pretty much dead nuts pretty, okay. And I want it to stay that way. So, but we'll see as we go on. It may change, and I may need to make some adjustments. Okay. Now, if you're looking through the back and you are pushing up on this barrel just as much as you can, okay. And when you look through the back of this, you see like a half moon in one direction or another. If it's sitting low, okay, you need to start filing on the top of your upper lugs, and I'll show you here. Oh, yeah. I may just run some. There we go. See, I just dropped right out. Pop it over. Okay. Yep. You're gonna be something else. Okay. Now, if this is sitting low, when you look through the back of here, and this is sitting low, these recesses right here, okay, that's where you want to be filing. Okay, so we have a barrel locking lug file. Okay, this is the one from Brownells that I was showing you guys in the first episode. And if you don't have one of these, or you don't feel like paying for it, a square needle file will work as well, but it's not going to cover the full width in one stroke. You're going to have to go back and forth. What you're going to need to do is mark, again, either with Dicum or some other marking fluid or a Sharpie, and you're going to need to keep going back in here and fitting your barrel and seeing where it's rubbing. There's another way to do this with plumber's putty. You take tiny little pieces of plumber's putty and lay it in the recesses, and then you put the barrel back into the slide and just push it up in there, trying to push out all that putty. You remove the barrel. Now what that's going to tell you is if there's any putty left in the recess, that means that you're not making contact with the lug, and that's fine. You're looking for the recess that does not have any plumber's putty left in it, or where it's been squished out all to the sides, okay, because that means it's bottoming out, and that's what's preventing the barrel from going all the way up. So what you would do is take your file here, right, and it's got two safe edges for a reason, so it'll lay right in between there, you know, and not widen the recess, not widen the lug, but just file down again in that, you know, recess, in that rounded, you know, radius file motion, to file that down, and little by little, and you're gonna have to keep doing it over and over again. Put a little bit more putty back in there, fit it back in, or put some more Dicum on there, or a Sharpie, Prussian blue, whatever you like to use to test for fitting, and go back until you get the proper alignment with the flash hole in your casing. Okay, now once you've got it, leave it alone. Don't keep going. That's also a good point in time to measure for how much lockup you have. All right. So once we'll measure for lockup once we have the barrel link selected. Okay. Because I can do you know, everything in the world right now to make sure I've got proper lockup, and I can already tell that we do just by visual. But once we get into putting the link in here and everything, we'll measure lockup again. We'll measure the lockup that the link is providing for us, because that's more important. If the link is going to be too long and it's not going to, you know, provide enough, or the slide is not preventing us basically from going up all the way, because the link is too long, but it's the link we need, then we can start going into fitting this and all that. Okay, so I know that just sounded really, really complicated. If you've never done this before, believe me, it's not as complicated as it looks. So that's what we'll be doing next.